Hey everyone, so today we're taking a look at the Pixel 6 in this kind of coral color, so like an orangey pink color, and also the Pixel 6 Pro in cloudy white. So cloudy white is kind of like a beige, kind of off-white color. I like how the top of the phones is a little bit different color to the rest of the body, so it gives it a kind of a up color pop, which is nice. Now, starting off with the Pixel 6, inside there's really not much. There's the phone itself. And then you get basically some documentation, a USB C to C cable, and a C to A adapter for, if you're transferring from a different phone. So that's all you get now. You don't even get a charging brick anymore, which is, a little bit of a disappointment, but that's the way of the world now. I guess that's how the box is so thin as well. So same thing for the Pixel 6 Pro, no charging brick. The color of the box matches the color of the phone, which is nice. Again, so inside all you get is the phone, some paperwork, and then a C to C cable, and then that C to A adapter. So let's move on straight away to the phones themselves. So I have already unboxed it. Let's start with the 6, so the smaller one in this kind of coral color. You see the two-tone color at the top there, the massive camera bar in the middle. The Pixel 6 only has 2 cameras, so the main sensor and then an ultra wide, no telephoto. On the side are your buttons. You'll notice that on the 6, the edges or the rail around the phone is black, so it is black aluminium and it's like a matte finish. I actually like the matte finish on the Pixel 6 a little bit more, but let's move over to the Pro. So this is the Pixel 6 Pro. The size is actually almost the same. So if you think the 6 is a lot smaller, it's actually not. It's maybe, I don't know, half a centimeter taller, and that's about it. In terms of width, they're basically the same width as well. Maybe a hair thicker or a hair wider on the Pixel 6 Pro. So for the 6 Pro, this is the cloudy white. It looks a little bit yellowish, kind of off-white. And this one has 3 cameras in this massive camera bar at the top here. So there's the main sensor, the ultra wide, and then a telephoto. So this is like a periscope design. So it is a 4 times zoom on the Pixel 6 Pro. The sides of this is kind of a chrome or like a shiny finish, which I'm not a big fan of because it does pick up fingerprints a little bit more. On a white phone, you kind of can't see the fingerprints on the back because everything is so white anyway. I imagine a black phone would show your fingerprints quite a lot, so something to think about if you are choosing between different colors. So apart from the size difference between the two and the missing camera, there are some other differences as well. On the Pixel 6, the screen is a flat display, so the bezels on the 6 are a little bit thicker than on the Pro. So let me show you that. On the Pro, the bezels are a little bit thinner, as you can see, and the display kind of curves around the edges. So both the left and the right edge, they curve over ever so slightly. The antenna bands around the two devices are a little bit different as well. So on the Pixel 6, you see these kind of plastic bars which appear around the frame of the phone. They're pretty standard kind of antenna bars that you see on most phones these days. On the Pro, however, you do get those bars, around the edge of the phone, but at the top, you get this massive plastic insert, and I hate how it doesn't match the actual color of the frame. So if they made this like, I don't know, a silver plastic part, or a plastic chrome piece, I think that would match the phone a lot more, but they've gone for a massive white piece. So, even from the top, if you're looking from the front, you'll see there is a large insert at the top here. So this is for the millimeter wave. So in Australia, the Pixel 6 Pro does have millimeter wave, whereas the Pixel 6, the smaller one, does not. So while we're taking a look at the outside of these two phones, I thought it was a good idea to bring some other phones in for a size comparison. So if you're not sure, which size you want, or you want to get an idea of how big they are, this is the Pixel 5. So the Pixel 5 is basically tiny. Both the 6 and the 6 Pro kind of dwarfs this phone. So if you are coming from a 5, even the Pixel 6 is absolutely massive. So if you have a Pixel 4a 5G, this is the size that that phone is, and even that is smaller than the Pixel 6. And I also have a Pixel 4 here, so this is the previous generation, so even before the Pixel 5, and even this phone is smaller than the Pixel 6. So the Pixel 6 is slightly, ever so slightly bigger than the 4, so if you have a 4XL, then grab that, put that in your hand, that's roughly the size of the 6. The 6 is still a little bit wider, but the 6 Pro, that one is bigger than the 4XL. So that kind of gives you an idea of how big this phone is. Now, if you don't have an Android phone, you still want to know the size, I have an iPhone 12 here as well. So this iPhone 12, again, as you can see, it's quite small against the Pixel 6 Pro. And this is the size comparison of the iPhone 12 against the Pixel 6. So yes, that is also quite a bit bigger than the iPhone. So while I have the Pixel 5 here, let's talk about the differences you'll feel if you are switching from the older Pixel 5 to the Pixel 6. The first thing you'll notice if you pick up a Pixel 6 is kind of the build quality. It feels like a premium, like a Samsung kind of phone in your hand. The edges are really smooth, the seams are, fairly seamless, and it's basically a glass sandwich. So glass back, glass front with a metal frame, and it feels hefty in your hand. So it's got like a heft in it, which kind of gives it a premium feel. The next thing you'll notice is that the fingerprint scanner is no longer at the back of the phone, but it's actually in the screen. Now, in my opinion, the fingerprint scanner in the back is probably the best place to put it because you pull the phone out of your pocket, you have your finger over the scanner, and by the time it's out of the pocket, it's already unlocked and ready for you to use. Whereas the in-screen one, it's a bit harder to do that because there's no bump on the screen, so you can't feel where to put your finger. And also, it's a little bit slower. So if you put your finger over it, it lights up because it's an optical based scanner. And after it lights up, basically takes a photo of your finger and then it unlocks your phone. There are times where it doesn't quite catch your finger quite right. So you might have to do it, once or twice before it unlocks your phone properly. Okay, so let's quickly go over some headlining features that the new Pixel 6 and 6 Pro have. The first one that comes to mind is the motion shots. So it can do basically kind of like a fake panning motion blur type thing. So that's what it actually looks like. And then it applies an effect which blurs out the background like that. So it gives you a more dramatic looking photo with more kind of action and motion inside of it. So here's the second one. So this person was rollerblading down the street and I used the action shot, and normally this photo would look pretty bland. So this is what it looks like without the motion. You probably wouldn't even bother posting or think twice about deleting this photo, but adding that motion blur there around the sides gives it that dramatic look, and it almost makes it, Insta-worthy almost. Here's another shot that I tried to do. I was actually trying to take a photo of this BMW, but it actually picked up the Mazda in the back instead, which is still great. It still looks like a pretty good shot. I'm still learning how to use it, but basically you want to have your subject in the middle before pressing the shutter, and then it will know what to blur. Okay, next, let's take a look at this photo here. It probably looks like a normal scene these days with no one on the street because everyone's stuck at home. But this is actually modified photo using Magic Eraser. So that is what the original looks like. So there's actually people almost everywhere, and I just used Magic Eraser and removed those people right out of the scene. At this kind of zoom level, you could fool a lot of people that this park was completely empty, but in reality, there's actually people walking around on the grass, on the pavement over there, and also in the background as well. And also, this photo wasn't even taken with the Pixel 6. I took this with a Pixel 5. So yes, that means you can use the Magic Eraser on photos you took with other phones as long as it's in Google Photos. So the Pixel devices with the new Tensor processor can now be truly considered flagship devices. So this is Pokemon Unite running at a solid 59 or basically 60 FPS the entire time. So that is something that the Pixel 5 couldn't even dream of doing. So the Pixel 5, you got maybe max 30 FPS. So yes, this is truly a flagship device now. And just for comparison, this is the same game running on the iPhone. This is the iPhone 12, and yes, it is also 58, 59 FPS as well. So the games will run just as good as an iPhone. Another headlining feature is the live conversation translate. Let's give that a go between English and Chinese. Hi, excuse me, I'm lost. Can you tell me how to get to the train station?
你好，对不起，我迷路了，你能告诉我怎么去火车站吗？
请在下一个红绿灯左转。
Please turn left at the next traffic light.
I can't see it from here. Can you take me there?
我从这里看不到它，你能带我去吗？
对不起，我上班快要迟到了，可能没有办法。
Sorry, I'm going to be late for work. I can't help it.
Okay, thank you very much.
好的，非常感谢。
Okay, so just a recap of how well the translation went. The grammar for Chinese was actually, I'd say 90% correct, which is pretty good. The speed could be improved. Sometimes you have to wait a bit before it does the actual translation. But I think right now on the market, this is probably the fastest translation app you could get on a consumer device like this. So yeah, pretty impressive. Got it right pretty much. I mean, if you were actually traveling, you could actually use this to communicate with a local and they would understand what you were talking about. So yeah, pretty cool. So I've gone through some software features. Let's go through some hardware features of the new phones. So the Pixel 6, the one on the right here, has a 90 Hertz refresh rate. So same as the Pixel 5. So if you have that, you'll be used to this screen here. On the left is the Pro. This one has a 120 Hertz refresh rate. To my eye, I can't actually see that big of a difference. But usually when you go from low refresh rate to a high refresh rate screen, you can't tell the difference. But if you use a high refresh rate screen for a while and then go back to a lower refresh rate screen, that's when you see the biggest difference. So this is a iPhone 12 here. This has a 60 Hertz refresh rate. And if you look at this closely, you'll see that it is a little bit choppier than the 90 Hertz in the middle here, and probably a lot more choppier than the 120 Hertz on the left. Now, if you got an iPhone 13 Pro, then doesn't matter, you have the 120 Hertz anyway, and this will become the norm going forward, I'm pretty sure. After using these phones for a bit, there are two more hardware things I've noticed. The first is the haptics in the phones are a lot better than the previous generation Pixels, and it's probably one of the nicest feeling haptics in an Android phone. Still nowhere as good as the iPhone. That still feels more precise when when the motors spin. It feels like something is like actually tapping. Whereas the Pixel, it's getting there. It's kind of close, but still not quite there yet. The other thing I noticed were the speakers. So the speakers, there's actually an earpiece now, which is good. On the Pixel 5, there was an under-screen earpiece, so the stereo separation on those two speakers was really poor. It's a lot better on the Pixel 6 and the 6 Pro because it's got a proper earpiece up here. The stereo separation is pretty good. You can really tell that there are, two speakers. One side isn't particularly louder than the other one, but it is still nowhere as good as an iPhone. So for haptics, for audio, the iPhone is still the better phone for that. Now for the Pixel 6 and the Pixel 6 Pro, the cameras are also much improved. So they've actually changed the sensor in the phone itself. So Google have been using the same sensor for their Pixel 5, 4, 3, all the way back there. And they finally updated the sensor. Now I'm not going to do a full comparison of the camera because by the time you've reached this review, you've probably watched all the professional reviewers doing camera tests. So refer to those for proper camera tests. So just some concluding thoughts on the Pixel 6 and the Pixel 6 Pro. When you buy these phones, what you're getting is a pretty good screen, a pretty good camera, pretty good video quality, but what you're really buying these for is for the Google AI smarts. So things like the Google Assistant, things like the smart camera modes, like the computational photography stuff that Google does in their camera, like astrophotography, the motion modes that I demonstrated before, you know, the panning motion and so on. You're also buying it for the Google Assistant smarts, the fact that, you know, your boarding pass will show up here when it's time for you to board. It will remind you of calendar events and so on up the top here. You're also getting smart spam rejection in the SMS app, for example. In the dialer here, you also have hold for me. The phone will stay on hold for you. It'll also do screen calling. So when someone calls you, you're not sure who it is, you can screen the call and Google Assistant will deal with the telemarketers for you. So that's kind of what you're buying these Pixel phones for. There are always phones with better screens, better cameras, and so on. In terms of pure hardware, they're not the absolute best, but this year they're getting pretty damn close. So yeah, that's my concluding thoughts. Hope this was useful and thanks for watching.